Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 3rd, 2023 meeting of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Meg, if you would please call the roll.
Ms. Austin is excused. Mr. Castagnoli.
Here.
Mr. Hirsch.
Here.
Mr. Cater.
Present.
Mr. Collegian.
Present.
Mr. Moore.
Present.
Mr. Mortimer.
Present.
Mr. Sadi.
Present.
Mr. Zaharidis.
Present.
And Chairman Quish.
I'm here as well. First order of business, vote by March 9th, is 21 4th Street, Zone R 12.5, request for the board to accept an application for zone change without the submission of site plan or special permitted as allowed by Section 10.1.2.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. For the record, my name is Kevin Kersaden. My office is at 3 Lafayette Street here in Milford. I'm representing Gold Coast Freehold, LLC. The representative from Gold Coast couldn't be here tonight. He fell ill. This is a request. It's not a formal application. There's a provision in your zoning regulations under that Section 10.1 that occasionally, and in the past, the board has waived the requirement to bring a site plan application at the same time you bring a zone change application. There's various reasons to do that. One of them is that a fully engineered site plan application for a large commercial site is extremely expensive. And if the zone change is not granted, then that money has been spent unnecessarily. This board has granted this in the past, or it's been granted administratively for other properties in town that I've done work on. Cherry Street, I think there was a couple on Cherry Street, different locations in Cherry Street. I think Attorney Lynch had handled one of those. In this particular case, the entire block is CDD1 except this 21 Ford Street that used to have a single-family residential house on the property. That house has since been taken down. A large percentage of this block is owned by Gold Coast Freehold LLC. It's connected, although I'm not sure what the connection is, but it's connected to Colonial Toyota across the street. Several years ago, I'm not sure how many, I was not representing them at the time, they had received a site plan and special permit application approval for areas on the Post Road that abut and adjoin this particular property for several business reasons. That project did not proceed. A deal had fallen through. In this particular case, since that time, they've acquired 21 Ford Street, and the request in front of you tonight is to allow us to present the zone change application, hopefully sometime next month if possible, without having a site plan attached to it. It would still be a full public hearing once the zone change, if the zone change was approved, then we would still have to come in for a site plan special permit or an amendment to a previous approval. So the request is to proceed with the zone change without the site plan so that if the zone change is not approved, the plans can be adjusted accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. David, if you would give us a brief overview.
I can't really add anything to what Mr. Crusaden said.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions or comments from the board? Mr. Moore.
This is for staff. When was the last time we accepted an application without the submission of a site plan?
Several years ago, 990 Naugatuck Avenue came before the board, and that was for a proposal for a residential complex, but they needed to change the zone. And for the reasons that Mr. Crusaden gave this evening, they had the same reasons then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Sadi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Happy New Year, Mr.
Happy New
Crusaden.
Year. Happy New Year.
Since this one, we don't get any documents, I took a look, and 21 Ford Street is abutting properties, and could you just explain that again? There was a zone change sought on abutting property, and you now want to take this 21 Ford Street and join it with the other properties on Post Road? I was a little bit unclear on that.
Sure. So the block that 21 Ford Street sits on, it fronts on Ford Street, which is across the street, is residential. The side of Ford Street that this property sits on over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was. I forget the name of the restaurant. There was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was. I forget the name of the restaurant. There was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was. I forget the name of the restaurant. There was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was. I forget the name of the restaurant. There was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was. I forget the name of the restaurant. There was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was. I forget the name of the restaurant. There was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was. I forget the name of the restaurant. There was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was. I forget the name of the restaurant. There was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was. I forget the name of the restaurant. There was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another restaurant on the site. It's been either changed or over the years has now, it's where Kimberly Diner was, I forget the name of the restaurant, there was another.
With me tonight is Luke Sofair, who is our project engineer, and our client, Andrew Hamer, who is the owner of the businesses. And that will give you a quick summary. Just by way of introduction, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background, site plan application, and then Luke will walk you through the details of the actual proposed site improvements. So as noted in the application, we have 3 parcels, 497 Bick Drive, which is currently improved with a commercial building of just under 13,000 square feet and some associated parking. And then there are 2 properties, both identified as 0 Shellen Drive, or excuse me, Shellen Street, both labeled 0 because they're currently undeveloped. Combined acreage of the parcels is approximately 7 acres, and as noted in the application materials, zoned HDD. The reason for the application before you tonight is that Mr. Hamer's company, National Floral Supply, is relocating its business from Orange to the proposed building. This will be their headquarters and wholesale flower operations. They're a business that has been in Connecticut for probably close to 100 years now, and currently employ approximately 30 people, all of whom will relocate to this facility. As we noted in the statement of use, there are very minimal traffic impacts associated with this. It's approximately 10 trucks a day, mostly exiting the property with the flowers that are being distributed to local florists, event planners, supermarkets, things like that. We've received all of our staff review comments and sign-offs, That is noted in Mr. Sulkas's report today, and we think that the importance of this application is obviously bringing a new and thriving business to Milford with the potential for future expansion. So with that, I'll turn it over to Luke, who will walk you through the details of the plans, and then we can answer any other questions you might have.
Thank you. If you would leave them on the table, if any member wants to go get it, that they may.
Good evening, members of the commission. As Attorney Suchin's mentioned, my name is Luke Sofair, engineer with John Paul Garcia and Associates, 190 Fairwood Road, Bethany, Connecticut. Here to talk about our proposed improvements at 497 Bick Drive and the 20 Shellen Street parcels. So currently the three pieces are all in the HDD, the Housatonic Design District. What we are proposing is a commercial use for warehousing and then eventually for floral distribution and storage, as well as office space, all of which are permitted uses within the HDD. Currently, the building was a commercial office and storage space associated with a gas company. What we are proposing is to keep the existing footprint and add on a 60 by 70 foot steel-framed cooler addition to store flowers. As part of that, that is going to be taking out the current parking area, parking and drive. So we'll be expanding the parking area into the back and adding a parking area in the back to provide 46 parking spaces, which exceeds the amount that's required for our square footage in use. We will also be adding handicap parking spaces, which are not currently provided by the parcel in front. As part of adding on the parking area, we will be adding a improved storm drainage system with catch basins in the parking area and the drive, which will route to a detention basin on the 20 Shellen Street parcel. As part of that, we will be adding some storage tanks with the intention of harvesting some of the rainwater, clarifying and harvesting the rainwater for use with watering flowers. And the overflow, if it would get to that from the detention basin, will be piped into the storm sewer on Shellen Street. The entire storm system was reviewed by the town engineer. We got a favorable review. Additionally, as Attorney Suchin's mentioned, it has been through the police department. We got a favorable review for any kind of traffic impacts. As part of this, the piece is currently on a septic system. We will be removing the septic system and converting it to a storm sewer connecting to Bick Drive. We have gotten approval from the Sewer Commission for the sewer tie-in. We have a landscaping plan in place if you want to go. I think it's C5. Back one. Nope. C5, I think. One more back? Yes. Along the proposed drive aisle and parking area, we'll be adding improved plantings, shade trees, some light poles to provide light. As well, we'll be adding some exterior light to the building. All of this has been designed in accordance with the zoning standards. We did a lighting study to make sure that there will not be any adverse lighting effects on adjoining properties. As part of the parking area, the proposed entrance off of Bick Drive will be adding an entrance. It will be entrance only with a one-way traffic flow through the site from that entrance. The intention would be for the trucks to still use the current Bick Drive entry to access the proposed dock doors at the addition. And then the exit will all be onto Bick Drive. Like Attorney Suchin mentioned, the expectation is no more than 10 truck trips added per day to service the proposed business on site. And that is, for the most part, the extent of the application. Everything that we are proposing falls within the zoning regulations for this piece, and I would appreciate and welcome any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Sadi.
Thank you very much. Just for the record, I'm reviewing your materials on an iPad.
Okay.
So this is through the chair to Mr. Sulkus. Shellen Street and this particular location, my memory is within the last 2 years, we had at the area of Shellen and Plains a substantial discussion about traffic. And the question is, I agree that he has a report from the police department, but do we need to revisit the traffic issue because we're increasing the size of the building and also the number of vehicles that are leaving this facility onto Bick Drive? And we rewrote it, and I think that application was approved because the business owner said we're going to reroute through Bick Drive.
I didn't hear a question. What was the question?
The question is, do we not need an additional traffic study? Because we spent a lot of time and effort on the other one with different traffic studies. I just want to know if that was the question.
I would say no, and the reason being in this case, the building already exists, and they're putting on a small addition. So the other site was a huge factory going on to a site where nothing existed prior. So in this case, whatever changes happen to this site, in my opinion, would be de minimis, and that's why I didn't have them do any traffic study.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. No further questions.
Thank you. Eton?
Thank you. Will this affect traffic on Plains Road? I know we had recently with the bus depot, there were some issues with when we put the bus depot, I think, near this area. Will this have any impact on people on Plains Road?
Our expectation would be no. The expectation in terms of truck traffic would be only 10 trucks per day, typically 1 arriving in the morning to deliver to the facility and then 9 going out each day. And then the only additional traffic we would expect would just be the normal traffic from employees coming and going. There will be a small amount of a small showroom to show potential clients, but for the most part, it won't be a brick and mortar storefront. It's going to be a distribution center and without large anticipated traffic. So our expectation would be no.
When you say truck traffic, you're talking step vans and...
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And
Yes.
Not large.
No. I
trucks.
just said truck to differentiate from pedestrian. Yeah,
Okay.
but vans, correct, yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments from the board? Good, Carl.
Can you speak to the emergency vehicle access?
Absolutely. So all of the proposed drive accesses are 24 feet wide, which would be plenty wide to allow any sort of emergency vehicle to access from either Bick Drive entrance.
Mr. Hirsch?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Sulkus, is there anything preventing this business from becoming a retail store in the future?
They would need to come in for a couple of things. They would need probably another site plan review because it would be parked at a different ratio.
Say that again?
It would be parked at a different ratio. So they would need to come in. And, I mean, the site doesn't really lend itself for retail. But, I mean, that's typical of any application where there's a major change of use. We would look at it in terms of, parking, and if it's the same ratio or a different ratio.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I just wanted to add one thing. Retail's not permitted in the zone. So we'd need a zoning text amendment and an application and approval from you in order to do that.
Thank you for that. Okay, without any further, Mr. Cater?
How you doing? Just a thought. With the new parking lot expansion, have you thought of possibly maybe adding a couple EV spots for future cars? Just, we're kind of leaning that way. Just wondering if that's something you'd consider.
We have not at the current time. However, it's relatively close to the building, so if it's something that the client would be interested in at a future time, it's certainly something that could be explored to run it out. But with the current site plan, we have not thought about that, no.
Okay, any other further questions or comments? David, any overview you'd like to share?
There's nothing new that I would add, other than the applicant is going to need to file easements on the land records regarding the drainage system, because the drainage system is technically on one of the other parcels.
Understood. Okay, if there's no further questions or comments,
Mr. Quish, does that mean that we have to, or Mr. Salkus, does that mean that we have to, when we make the motion to approve, have to include language about the easement?
That wouldn't hurt.
fair enough. Okay, without further questions, I'd hear a motion. Etan, would you like to make it?
What about me?
Would you like to make the motion?
Haven't done one in over a year. Sure,
Okay.
why not? Sure. I move to approve as presented the petition of John Nuff Esquire for site plan review for a warehouse and parking lot expansion at map 51, block 936, parcel D7, of which CDH Holdings LLC is the owner, subject to the provision or the condition precedent of obtaining appropriate easements.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Mr. Chair,
David?
would Mr. Hirsch add the words easements for the drainage system?
Yes, I will add the words for easements for the draining system.
Thank you, and the second will include that as well, is that right? Yep, Mr. Castagnoli. We have a motion and a second, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Meg, please call the roll.
Mr. Castagnoli.
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch.
With the motion.
Mr. Cater.
With the motion.
Mr. Collegian.
With the motion.
Mr. Moore.
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer.
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi.
With the motion.
Mr. Zaharidis.
With the motion.
Chairman Quish.
And I am also with the motion. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much, everyone.
38 Golden Hill Street has been postponed at the request of the applicant. Next order of business is 71 Milford Point Road, petition of Justin Falco for a coastal area management plan review for construction of a single-family house dwelling at map 06, block 84, parcel 21A, of which Justin Falco is the owner.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. As you said, my name is Justin Falco. I'm here for a CAM review for 71 Milford Point Road. In short, the plan is to demolish an existing non-conforming single-family residence that's in the floodplain and to replace it with a fully compliant raised single-family residence without the need for variance, in full compliance with the zoning regs. We don't anticipate any adverse coastal impact, and we just request that the CAM application be approved.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Sadi?
This is just an announcement. I know Attorney Falco for a long period of time. I find I have no reason to be able to effectively decide this. I have no financial, no personal interest, but I just want to make that clear on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Cater?
Did you say a single-family dwelling you're putting in? It says two-family there. Did you say single?
Oh, yes, it's a single-family residence that's going in. Is there a, I believe the box is checked single-family on the application. Oh, okay.
You mentioned that it was non-conforming, and your plan is going to be conforming?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
What flood zone is this property located in?
It's primarily in a it's in a VE zone.
We say primarily, is it in two flood zones?
Well, it is. It's primarily in VE 13. It's a small part of it is in 14, and this plan allows for full compliance in the more restrictive VE 14 zone.
It is very restrictive, correct? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Mr. Salkos, do you care to give any overview?
Sure. The applicant is proposing a new single-family dwelling of 3,685 square feet that is 34.5 feet in height on a previously developed site. which is located in both the VE14 and VE13 flood zones. In accordance with DPLU policy, the building height will be confirmed through A2 surveys at the completion of construction. No adverse impacts to coastal area resources are anticipated. Sidewalks are not being required by the Public Works Director.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd hear a motion. Mr. Sadi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding 71 Milford Point Road, I move to approve as presented the petition of Justin Falco for a coastal area management plan review for construction of a single-family dwelling at MAP 06, Block 84, parcel 21A, of which Justin Falco is the owner.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I didn't quite hear what Mr. Sadi said earlier. Could he repeat what he said earlier? About, I think you were opposed to it?
I didn't hear the question.
You had made a comment earlier when the gentleman made his
I
presentation.
know the person that is making the application. I'm letting everybody know that I found that I had no reason to not be able to make a motion or vote.
Very good. Motion second, without further comment. Would you call the roll, please, Meg?
Mr. Castagnoli?
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch?
With the motion.
Mr. Cater?
With the motion?
Mr. Collegian?
With the motion.
Mr. Moore?
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer?
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi?
With the motion,
Mr. Zaharidis?
With the motion.
And Chairman Quish.
I'm also with the motion. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Next order of business is a public hearing closed by February 7th, 2023, vote by April 13th, 2023. Proposed regulation change 22-10, petition of the Planning and Zoning Board for a change to Milford zoning regulations, Article 3, Section 3117, regarding accessory apartments. This has been in front of the Regulations Subcommittee, and I would ask Mr. Sadi to give us an overview of what the process has been and what has changed.
thank you very much. Members of the board, eventually we had 5 members of this board that assisted in getting to where we have to be for purpose of presenting this before the full board. Originally, we started off with 3, and what we did come up with were 4 different areas that were different in what we had in the existing regulations. First one is that if this is accepted and agreed to, the accessory apartment can be used and to generate income for the owner. Related to that was that a person that was living in the accessory unit did not have to be related by blood. The third was the 800 square foot. And if there's some questions, I can talk about that later, about how their jurisdictions do it, but 800 square feet was the size of the building. And the last issue that did come up at the last meeting prior to it coming before us for this hearing is whether it be attached or detached. The recommendation at the time of the subcommittee was it must be attached. So those are the 4 changes that I suggest are substantive. There are technical changes as we went through, such as what happened if a permit existed and like, but that's, I think, a good summary of what's there. And if there's anything else that the board members need, we can probably address that by questions through staff or the subcommittee. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the board before we open the public hearing?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I just want to read into the record, we received a lot of emails from citizens. So for the record, I just want to read into the record their names and whether they're in support, not in support, or if they had some other status, if they were just concerned or whatever they said. I'll just briefly just go down the list.
Go ahead.
Okay. Palace Garcia sent us an email in support. Alice Garlock sent us an email in support. Donna Garlock sent us an email in support. Samuel Garlock sent us an email in support. Sarah Aaron Bromley sent us an email in support. Joseph Simasek is concerned about it. Someone named Hoffman is in opposition. Donna Ducko wanted added verbiage. Diane Brown is in support. Albert May is in support. Callie Merva is in support. Joseph Merva is in support. Rachel Merva is in support. Sarah O'Brien in support. Therese Eck is in support. Marianne Jensen is in support. Sarah Ann Bromley is in support. Gail Haas is in support. Darcy Jeffrey is in support. Callie Merva is in support. Audrey Moore is in support. Nadine Pedowitz is in support. Michelle Steinloff is in support. Bev Byer is in support. Kimberly Gerlander is in support. Reverend Matt Linderman is in support. Deborah Mason is in support. Joseph Merva is in support. Rachel Merva, I think they've been listed several times. Sorry about that. Dorothy Asenich is in support. James Rood is in support. Grace Schwartz is in support. Diane Brown is in support. And Lori Muttry is in support. And we received all of that as of 1:25 today, which was the last time this was published. Other correspondence that came in after 1:25, you were either given a paper copy of, but depending on when the support came in, it probably will not show up until it's added to the online list of people.
So the actual content of these emails is available to the members as well as the public on the website?
Yes, you can get it through the link to the website, yes.
Thank you. Okay, open the public hearing. I'd like to acknowledge Mayor Blake.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I bring greetings from the mayor's office. My name is Ben Blake, 110 River Street, and I want to wish all of you a very happy new year. I hope 2023 is off to a healthy and productive start for each of you. I generally, or I don't, speak at individual application hearings before your board, and I don't generally speak at regulation proposals. But last summer, at your August meeting, I did speak with respect to a policy consideration that state statute asked your board to consider and act upon, and that was with respect to accessory dwelling units, and I suggested to your board that you opt out of the state's proposal and instead take another look at the current zoning regulations to see if there were any improvements or adjustments or revisions that could be made so that they were more Milford. And I've taken a look at the proposal that has been put forth in the draft regulations that you are considering this evening. I think that the draft proposal is appropriate. I think it's balanced. And I want to compliment each and every one of you again for making wise decisions on behalf of appropriate planning for our community. And I just ask that you consider this again, given my testimony back in August, in a favorable light. I wish you all good luck. I wish you only the best as we move forward. And once again, I will thank you for your continued willingness to serve the community of Milford. Good luck.
Thank you. So this is a public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak, please come to this podium. State your name and address for the board. Try to keep your comments to about 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for being here, Commissioners. My name is Bruce Barrett. I live at 47 Point Beach Drive here in Milford. Grew up here. I think my grandparents illegally lived in our house when I was a kid because we had 2 stoves and 2 kitchens, and the house was never zoned for that. So I got the ADU thing. I'm fully in support of this. We are blessed in Milford that we're victims of our own success. It's a wonderful town, and you and the people before you have made it very attractive and wonderful place to live in, and the result of that is landlords want to charge more in rent, and the prices go up, and it's very hard to live in Milford, which means that Many of us don't have families that can't stay here. One wonderful way to ease that burden is using market forces to let people rent spaces in their homes. And this actually uses market forces to counteract some of that high pricing in Milford, right? So people that have the ADUs that are empty, that cannot legally rent them now, can rent them. And that's a good thing because you're using the market force to do that, right? To provide more housing. And you've got someone right there that owns the property living right there to sort of keep a watch to make sure that this place is properly treated. This isn't a huge complex with a whole bunch of units that some corporation out in Oshkosh doesn't care about what happens. This is the homeowner's right there, and they're renting part of their home to ease the burden on the community, provide them a little rent. This is a win-win, right? This is using our community, trusting the people in our community that own homes to rent that extra space that they have to others. What a great idea for a small town with a big heart. That's the kind of people we want to be, right? And trusting our people to share their homes. So thank you for taking the time to think about this. I'm glad Mayor Blake came out in support of it. That's wonderful. Good job writing this for there was a subcommittee, right, of you that helped draft this. So thank you. And thanks for the folks in Olin for Milford that let me know about this. And so it's a good thing. Thanks so much. I hope you vote in favor.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Simonsek. I live at 61 Governors Avenue. And I do have concerns about this proposal as written. First thing is parking. I live around the downtown. I walk here for all these meetings. And I know that a lot of the houses in this area were built in a time when people had maybe one car, maybe no cars. So now we have a situation where you could have an apartment with 800 square feet that could easily have 2 additional cars, maybe more. I'm just wondering where these cars will be parked. As you know, as anyone knows that lives downtown, parking your car on the street is a very dangerous proposition. Your car will definitely get damaged eventually. So I'm envisioning a lot of these cars are going to be parked on sidewalks, on front yards, on the grassy space between the street and the sidewalks. So I would submit that if this went forward, there should be provisions that new cars have to be parked on the property, and there should be spaces for those cars to be parked. Second thing is, the new realities, we want people to be, okay, we're going to have people come in and then they're going to live there and it'll be great. But in the reality, we're in this new gig economy where Airbnb is a new assault on the single-family homes. So I'm envisioning, when you build an addition on your house, it's extremely expensive, and the economics of renting it may not be so favorable, and I can envision a lot of people renting these things out as Airbnbs. So now we're in a single-family residential area where we're constantly having people coming in and out, renting for a day, renting for 2 days, having a party, being here for some kind of event. So I would submit that we need to have provisions in here that only people that the renters must, rent for 6 months or so, or something like that, or and only people that can stay there that are on the lease. And you can't rent these things out as Airbnbs. There was a provision, and I didn't do as much research as I wanted to, but it talks about conformance to existing. Bear with me 1 second. No accessory apartment application shall be accepted unless the property is in compliance with all current lot requirements, and that got deleted, and I'm wondering why that is, what makes this so special that we don't have to have compliant lots anymore. If we've gone through, before where we put an addition on our house, we have to have compliance to lots and how the lots are configured. Why has that gone away? A lot of the people that talked in favor of this talked about, they want their family to come live with them, and which is great. I want my family to come live with me too. But the provisions that are in this existing accessory apartments allow for people to come in and live as families. So I don't understand why we need to have the change. And then density. So there is building going around us all the time. You know better than anybody how many different apartment places are going in and surrounding us and increasing our density dramatically all the time. You look just within half a mile here. Over here on Prospect Street, over here with the Big Y, that big complex place out by the Milford Connector, the big place by the train station. We are constantly having increased density. So there is building going on. There is opportunities for people to live here without taking all our single-family resident areas and making them even more dense. So these are my concerns. I would be not in favor of this as written, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing people. My name is Patricia Hauser, and I'm a local resident. And I'm interested in this because as a resident, I've lost one friend who had to move out of Milford.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we do need your address for the record.
Oh, 6 Westland Avenue. No junk mail, please. So my friend had to move out of Milford because she couldn't because her rent was raised. And now I have another friend who rents so I just see this as relieving problems. I'm also a person who's a certified planner, and I've studied planning and taught it for many years. And I still am really interested in the trends that make places their best selves, which is what you're about. And so I guess as a teacher, I'm really tempted to say, based on what I heard at the beginning of this meeting, you get an A. I like the changes you made because this whole ADU business, I began to follow it because I'm concerned about the housing crisis across the United States. I also, as a planning historian, have learned that the places that succeed best economically, environmentally, and socially are the ones that accommodate a variety of people. That's in the research. I'll give you the peer-reviewed citations if you want. And what you're doing when you make a variety of housing available is helping yourselves be the best city possible. It's interesting to hear critiques of ADUs because, and I understand people get concerned about change, and that's totally, you want everyone to have their concerns allayed. I actually looked into why some people hesitate about ADUs because I was curious. And the whole issue of density seems to be that ADUs are actually the happiest way to increase a city's density. They call it gentle density because it doesn't, studies show, change the character of neighborhoods. The average neighborhood, the average block of maybe 10 homes that are on an acre or whatever, they don't typically, the average neighborhood would have one of those 10 in a city that's really booming with ADUs. You're not going to have every house with an ADU and cars parked along the street. In fact, the city that has the most ADUs in the United States is Portland, and they have a large number. And I'll just tell you the statistics I just read before I came here, that in all the time that they've been accommodating ADUs, the ADUs are responsible for 744 additional cars in their city, whereas single-family residences are responsible for 226,440 cars. So it's like the ratio of cars that are used for ADUs versus single-family, it's not equal at all. The other thing is, I study environmental planning, that's one of my specialties, and probably the organization that's done the best research into ideal ADU ordinances is, you may know this, the AARP, the American Association of Retired People. And what they have found is that, of course, ADUs require fewer resources to build and maintain than full-size houses, so you're not using as many natural resources. You're not making a dent on the environment that way. And there's so much energy used for cooling and heating. And from my perspective, it's really key not to be clearing new ground and using up green space when you can do what's the equivalent of infill development. And it's, again, it's not obnoxious infill development. You're writing an ordinance that, if you can use this for spatial dimensions, that's tactfully inserting smaller housing between the bigger housing. And really what all of us need is smaller housing. The average family size today is far smaller than it was in the 1950s, and yet the average house building is 3 times as large. People are wanting the smaller space. Okay, so this is not, I did not plan this lecture to be organized. I don't have my PowerPoints, but I wanted to just say a few things to just encourage you and say, this is really important, and I commend you for tackling it, and well done you.
Thank you for your thoughts.
Hi, my name is Rachel Merva, and I reside at 90 Dart Hill Road. I wanted to provide some copies of an interactive zoning map for the state of Connecticut. I'm going to put this over on the table in a minute, but basically this shows in all of the purple communities in the state of Connecticut where the zoning allows for rental income to be earned, and where you don't have to be, let's see, it allows renters, and it does not have to be a blood relative. So it's a lot. It's a lot of communities across the state. I put it on big paper so you can see, but all around us we have Fairfield, Weston, Monroe, Woodbridge, New Haven, North Branford, Madison, Wallingford, et cetera. There's a lot of communities right near us. So I thought this would be a helpful reference. The other reference I wanted to give you are pictures of what an ADU can look like. And again, for the city of Milford, we're not talking about detached, it's just attached. So the garage off to the garage above or the garage to the side, et cetera. So I just have a couple of pictures. So I'm just gonna leave those there real quick. Some pros about these ADUs. They're cheaper to manage for the city. There are about 100 to 130 existing ADUs. I spoke to David earlier today just to confirm that I had that right. Currently, you need to recertify every 3 years. There's compliance, there's potential zoning enforcement with blood relatives, et cetera. It all goes away with these updated regulations. It's a pro. They increase property values. We've said this before, but I'll say it again. Building in-law apartments increases the number of bathrooms, it grows the tax base, you have income potential, so that all factors into the appraised value. It allows retirees to supplement their income by renting a portion of their home, and allows young professionals the opportunity to live in the community they work in. So firefighters, salespeople, nurses, teachers, et cetera. So when I've been looking for, kind of feedback from people that may have issues or concerns about these ADUs, I've heard that maybe an in-law apartment requires them to open a business and take out separate business insurance. If the property is owner-occupied, this is managed under the owner's regular homeowner insurance policy. No separate insurance is needed for the owner, and the tenant would need renter's insurance for the contents, same as any other rental. Also, I've heard as a criticism that broadening the ADU regulations would put an additional burden on the city's infrastructure, such as sewers. However, panel experts at this ADU fall event that was hosted by All In for Milford did not anticipate more than a handful of new ADUs per year due to the high price point. It's over $100,000 to $150,000 to build one. And for the existing ADUs, that infrastructure has already been built. It's not adding anything. I already mentioned the other municipalities around us, so I encourage you to look at that. Also, this is not an absentee landlord scenario. Some critics think non-owner occupied units result in deteriorating neighborhoods, but ADUs require that the owner lives there. So we're not dealing with a lot of concerns that way. And from a very high macro view, overly restrictive accessory apartment regulations impinge on the personal right to modify private property. as needed, and these restrictions may lead to unpermitted accessory apartments and a loss of tax revenue to the town. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is James Rood. I live at 141 West Main Street in Milford, up on the corner. I've been a resident of Milford for 33 years now and a business owner for 21 years. I'm a member of All In for Milford, where we've been working as an alliance across about 20 organizations to help Milford be its best, a place where everyone has an affordable place to live, enough quality food to eat, and a voice. I want to thank the P&Z Board for their service to our city, and especially the Regulation Subcommittee for their diligence on these proposed amendments. These amendments are modest and very reasonable. Nothing detached, no new front doors, no big parking lots. It doesn't change the landscape of the neighborhoods. The lion's share of the current regulations were created in 1973. I was in high school. Nixon was president. Apparently he wasn't a crook. Gas was 50 cents a gallon, $3 to fill up my Volkswagen Bug. New cars could be purchased for about $2,000. In short, we lived in a very different world than today, a world where housing was affordable to most, where working one job could pay for food and housing. Families could get by in general on one income. Clearly, this regulation isn't going to fix Milford's housing crisis, but it will help. I think there's around 200 ADUs right now, and a large number of them are not in use. It might help 100 seniors or 100 people out of college have an apartment to live in with dignity that they could afford. Let's join our friends in Greenwich and New Canaan, in Norwalk, Fairfield, Weston, Monroe, Woodbridge, New Haven, North Branford, Madison, and Wallingford, and allow for modest ADU reform. Milford is the small city with a big heart. I've had the privilege of living that for the last third of a century. Tonight, let's show our citizens and indeed the rest of Connecticut just how big that heart is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening. My name is Charles Montalbano. I live at 30 Revere Place. And just full disclosure, my wife and I do own a house with a currently vacant, what used to be called an in-law apartment. Just want to let you know that I'm very proud of the subcommittee and the work they did, and just a terrific job. The changes to current ADU regulations being considered are a major step forward for the city of Milford. While they allow for more flexibility for homeowners and renters alike, they still allow for local control. Rents in our city continue to rise, as do home ownership costs. This change to our regulations will provide an entry-level rental for entry-level wage earners and also provide an opportunity for homeowners to earn an income that will help them stay in their homes. I encourage you to vote in favor of the new regulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Donna Dutko, 236 Buckingham Avenue. I wanted to compliment you people on that draft of the proposed ADU regulation. It's excellent. My recommendation, however, is that if we really want to keep our housing stock as affordable, I think it should be deed restricted and put on the land records as deed restricted affordable, because then you're guaranteeing that whoever moves into those apartments is really in need of an affordable home, and your regular housing stock won't go up. You know, your market rate housing stock won't cause other developers to come in and pull the 8-30G development on you. So I don't know if you read my email or not. Anybody read it? I'll read it because I'm mumbling. Okay, regarding the proposed accessory apartment regulation being heard by P&Z this coming Tuesday, I think the proposed regulation is a good solution to the shortage of affordable housing in Milford. However, I do not see in the regulation where these accessory apartments will be required to be quote-unquote affordable. Accessory apartments that are market rate will not serve Milford in achieving housing affordability. In fact, it has the potential of adding up to 20,000 accessory apartments to our housing stock that do not support the objective of providing affordable housing, opening Milford up to more 8-30G developments. And again, all the comments made to P&Z, even tonight, by the citizens of Milford who want the accessory apartments all plead for affordable accessory apartments. So let's make their dream come true and make them truly affordable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Teresa Eek. I live at 47 Point Beach Drive. Thank you, all of you, for being here. And thank you for volunteering your time and effort to be on the Planning and Zoning Board. This is not an easy task. I also want to very much thank the Regulations Subcommittee for all the work that they have done to make much better regulations. I'm speaking obviously in favor of the improved and streamlined ADU regulations. And I believe, Mr. Sulkus, I don't know if you can help me here, but ADUs are not Airbnbs, and they are completely separate. I know there seems to be a lot of confusion about that. The improvements made here reflect the needs and desires of Milford residents. Homeowners could monetize their properties where appropriate and help provide housing for the people of their choice. No one has to build an ADU. No one's being forced to build an ADU. Fairfield, a city very similar to Milford in both population and geography, passed the same regulations some time ago. I spoke to Emmeline Harrigan, a Milford resident who works in Fairfield Planning Office, about Fairfield's experience of ADUs. She said the change in the regulations has only been positive. There are still less than 300 ADUs in Fairfield, despite fears that thousands would be built once the regulations were changed. Homeowners who want or already have ADUs and whose properties fit within the building codes and public health and safety laws have been very pleased. Nowhere in the regulations, again, does anybody have to build an ADU. The Fairfield City Planning Office has much less paperwork and bureaucracy to deal with, and homeowners who have previously had illegal ADUs have come into compliance. As Emmeline said to me, the owner-occupant requirement is the biggest built-in protection. Homeowners are very careful about who they share their homes with. So let's do the right thing and allow homeowners to make the most of their properties if they wish to, and help other people in their community. I believe we can certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there.
I'm Sarah Aaron Bromley, 27 Norway Street in Milford. I appreciate your work so much. I just can't believe that for me, coming here just for a few minutes, a couple hours a month is like, oh, how am I going to carve out time for that? And you carve out time for so much. And the subcommittee, all the work you've done, thank you so much. I really hope that this, you can send a message with a unanimous vote to support this, because it's really great work you've done. I know in the past I've shared how having more housing options would really personally help me and my family. But I've been thinking about how it can really help Milford, the way Pat Hauser mentioned, make Milford more vibrant, more economically thriving, and how helpful it could be, besides to build businesses who can struggle to find employees and really have a lot of call-outs. I work in a childcare field where no one can afford to live where they work, and like people are late a lot, people call out a lot. That happens in businesses all the time, and if some of their employees can live in the communities where they work, also Board of Ed, police, fire, all of those departments, if they could have people who work for them actually live in the communities, it can make Milford even better. So thank you so much for all of your work. Please vote this in. You've done the work, and your compatriots have, they slogged through it, and support their work and support all of us in Milford. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Was I under 3 minutes?
You were right on it.
Okay, sorry. I meant to say, I mentioned this before, but the parking concern, I did spend a lot of time months past and went and looked. What do the ADUs look like when you drive down a street in a neighborhood? And I had trouble spotting them. So the gentle density is real. I also took photos of how people solve their parking issues, because I was concerned that hey, Public Works needs to plow in the winter. What if there are extra cars on the streets? I took photos of those. I have those to show anyone who'd like to see them, and I didn't find a single ADU. And this was about like 60 I drove past. Not a single one had any cars on the streets. I didn't go during the day. I went after people often are home. I went in the evenings, so just wanted to let you know that as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So this is what it's like. Good evening, Greg Harla, 2 Anchorage Drive, Milford, Connecticut. I'm really before you tonight as a taxpayer civilian as opposed to my elected role as Board of Aldermen Majority Chair. I would like to just really thank the board for the hard work and what they've done. I know this was a challenge. It was a challenge for your board. It was a challenge for our board. And I think that you did a tremendous job in presenting what you presented tonight. A lot of thought, a lot of work, a lot of time went into it. And I think that the result really shows a forward move for Milford and a forward move for what the goal was on this entire ordeal. So, job well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Sadi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to acknowledge first, in addition to the work of those like Mr. Sulkus, Joe Griffith did a great deal of work on this also. We have had many public hearings, and I'm really pleased to see everybody that's shown up. 2 things that have come up at this particular hearing tonight, and I'm just putting forward because I serve as a liaison for the Regional Council of Governments. So to give you an idea of the 800 feet, that's what we've had all along. In our district, some have gone to 300 feet, and Fairfield actually goes to 1,500 feet. That being said, I've heard nobody complain about 800 feet, so I'll leave it alone. But I do know that Fairfield did put into their regulations that there be a deed-restricted affordable housing requirement. I'd ask the board to consider that as the issue of whether it could be income producing and what we want to do anything on that at all. And lastly, I know that some of the local ordinances, regulations do deal with parking, and I expect that we can get a question and answer about the parking from Mr. Sulkus at the appropriate time. But I think that we've tried to balance everything that we could for everybody, and I suggest that if we think we need to tweak some things, we certainly can do that, but I'm really pleased to see the group of people here that have consistently been with us on Zoom meetings and other meetings. I want to thank the members of the community for coming out, and I'm willing to listen to the comments of the board. I would support this. I'll make it clear I would support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other
Chairman?
comments? Yep.
Yes, Dave, did you say that an accessory dwelling unit cannot be used as an Airbnb?
Accessory units have to have the owner in the same structure.
Okay.
How that unit is used is subject to whatever our regulations say. And we do not, as a city, regulate the amount of time anybody rents anything.
Okay, so an ADU can be rented out as an Airbnb?
Well, also, there's Airbnbs that are just rooms in a house that don't have a kitchen.
You can't be in your
Yeah,
bedroom.
The only difference here would be that it has a kitchen.
Right, I realize that. I just wanted to make that clear because he seemed to agree with the woman who spoke that an Airbnb could not, an ADU could not be used as an ADU.
Yeah, they're just not the same.
Yeah, and he seemed to agree with that.
I never said that.
Okay, well,
All I'm saying is that we do not, as a city, regulate the amount of time someone rents something.
Right.
So someone, right now can rent a room from someone in a house, or someone can, as I'm aware, I hear from people that people do rent rooms on Airbnbs. It's just the single room in the house for people traveling through.
Right. I just wanted clarification, Dave, okay?
Yeah.
It was, the issue was raised.
Yes.
And that's why I wanted clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I have not had an opportunity to read all the emails. And if the board doesn't object, I'd like to consider parking. I would like to consider deed-restricted affordability, and I would like to read the emails that were received by staff prior to making my decision. I don't think we're in an emergency, you have to do it today kind of circumstance, but I would like to consider what the public has said word for word, and I would like to give some more thought to parking and give some more thought to deed restrictability.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify something, while this discussion was going on, I checked with my colleague in Fairfield, Emmeline Harrigan, and asked the question because I had chatted with her, as I have done with other planners, about the affordability. Fairfield does not require the units to be affordable.
Thank you for the clarification.
Mr. Chairman, does Fairfield have deed restriction?
I would have to ask her that question, but typically if you're doing affordable housing, by statute it would have to be deed restricted, which my guess is why Fairfield doesn't do that. Because you have to remember, with affordable housing, you have to deed restrict the property, you have to know the people who are in the units, and they have to file an annual report about their incomes. This isn't, you don't just say something is affordable, that has to be done.
Right, but is that under 830G?
That's if you want the credit for it to be affordable, if we're looking for the points, that's under 830G. You would have to follow the affordable statutes.
But if you're
for
not
credit.
looking for affordability, then you can deed restrict it also.
If you're not, so you're saying if you're not looking for, say that again, I'm sorry.
If you're not looking for affordability, you can still deed restrict it.
If you want to deed restrict it, that deed restriction is as good until you sell your house to the next person who doesn't have to follow with the deed restriction for their own house. The whole point of the deed restriction for 830Gs is that deed restriction, to have that you have to have the status of the 830G for that deed restriction. That's the purpose of it. Why would anyone deed restrict their house and tie their own hands for what purpose if they're not required to for getting an affordable component that was basically used by the municipality? You have to remember, deed restricting something for 830G has an impact on the municipality, because if we can count deed restricted properties that are deed restricted and follow the terms of 830G, we get points. And one of the speakers talked about, gee, the more deed restricted housing we have that follows the regulations of 830G, the more we get to that 10% level. Once you reach 10% of your housing stock as being affordable, deed restricted, then you can't have a developer come in and override zoning. That's the whole point with 830G.
So the only municipalities that would have that would do it for that purpose.
Exactly. To deed restricted, it would be to get the points and to ultimately get out from under the developer's ability to override local zoning.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, Mr. Sadi?
Just to clarify, Mr. Sulkus, the document I'm looking at that indicates what Fairfield's regulations are, which appear to be effective December of 2021. I'm not conflicting with you, but that's why I made the statement about the 830G. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other further comments? If somebody wants to make a motion, I'd like to read it more. I'm in favor of it. I would prefer if we were allowing for existing accessory buildings to be converted into ADUs. I would prefer not to have it need to be contiguous with the main dwelling, but I see that the committee didn't agree with me, and I didn't see anybody in the public making that their position. So outside of that, the affordability seems probably out of reach, because I don't think it's going to be realistic to have however X many homeowners that have a tenant, and the tenant to follow through with that level of compliance. It's a great idea, but I just don't think it's realistic. But if somebody wants to make a motion, I'll support it. Etan.
Mr. Chairman, are you, from what you had just said in the last couple of minutes, are you advocating going back to the Regulations Subcommittee to work on the issues of 830G and deed restrictions and parking?
No, we could do that at this committee. These would be considered minor changes, and we could either recirculate what we do. I don't want to go back to the subcommittee. Whatever this committee decides is where we go forward from.
So what you're saying is adding language into the existing text and making that a part of the existing text?
That could be one way of doing it, yes.
Just doing it right without any...
Yeah, the same way that we have done any kind of a motion where you make a contingent on a slight change.
All right, so just do it on the fly.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Sadi.
Thank you. For different reasons, I agree that we shouldn't take a vote on it tonight. I think we should consider, we've heard some new materials from members of the public. I think we should consider everything they have to say and find a way that might address that are either concerns or good thoughts. So I have no reason to say we have to vote it tonight. And we are one member short. That may change in the next time we vote also, but I have no problem with continuing this and not closing the hearing tonight. Thank you.
Do we have any objection to keeping the public hearing open and having it on the next meeting's agenda?
I have no objection to leaving this open. I think we got a couple of issues we should discuss a little further, and I would appreciate that opportunity.
Thank you.
Mr. Quich.
Yes, sir.
I am objecting, but not very strongly.
I'm objecting, and
I don't need to duck.
but I'm objecting strongly. I think at this time, I don't think we can keep the public hearing open, but I think we can close it, but still keep our concerns and have our discussions and vote on those pieces.
I'm not sure that that's permitted, but I'll listen to the staff on that.
If the board is contemplating changes to what has been proposed, you want to keep the public hearing open because you would want to get feedback from the public on those proposed changes. If the board isn't thinking about making changes to the regulations as it is, you can close the hearing.
But for example, if let's say we consider all the emails that we've gotten and we think that it may be smart to say if you have an accessory dwelling unit, you need at least one additional parking space. So just using that as an example. So in that case, we would need to keep the hearing open. Is that what your position is?
That's what I'm saying, yeah, because that's a substantive change, and depending on how the debate goes, and other members of the public may disagree with that, you'd have to get that input.
Right, okay. Does your objection still stand, Mr. Moore?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And Mr. Collegian, does your soft...
I object only that I don't, as is usually my want, I don't like kicking the can down the road. I like making decisions, and I'm ready to vote on it tonight. Out of deference to you and Mr. Sadi, I have no problem pushing it off one more meeting.
Okay, we do have one dissenter. Should we have a vote on whether or not to keep the public hearing open?
You can, but I mean, you as the chair can keep the public hearing open. I mean, you've got, take your vote.
Yeah, can we, I just don't want to seem to ignore Mr. Moore. So if we could just...
Without that, you can keep it open on my account.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then the public's hearing stays open. We will have time to evaluate the public's input, and we will put this on the next meeting's agenda. I'd like to thank you all again for your diligence and continued participation. Next order of business is public hearing closed by February 7th, 2023, vote by April 13th, 2023. Proposed regulation change 22-11, petition of the Planning and Zoning Board to change a Milford zoning regulation Article 5, Section 5.1, parking and loading regulations, and Section 11.2, definitions regarding electric vehicle charging stations. David, if you would please give us an overview on where this is coming from and what our status is.
Yeah. Well, the future is here. The state legislature, this last session in Public Act 2225, basically they mandated that towns come up with a regulation for accommodating electric vehicles on properties or where you have 30 or more parking spaces as part of a project. So if you're having a new building something and it's got 30 parking spaces, the statute says that at least 10% of the parking should have electric charging stations in it. And they did it for a bunch of things. This is just the part that affects local planning and zoning boards.
Understood. Is there any questions or comments on this?
We had an item before us earlier that included extra parking, and it seems it would fall under this regulation. Jim actually mentioned the charging stations, and this would require them to add the charging stations.
No, because their application came in before this.
If
regulation.
and only if it came in after.
Right, if it came in after that, this, if we had passed this last year before they came here today, then yes.
So they made it by 30 minutes, in other words.
Well, I don't know that they have 30 spaces in the back.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think they do.
But I will, if it.
46 in back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, just an observation of mine, when we've had large projects that are either existing or being built, even up to last year, often they have some level of charging stations being put in. It's just smart management on those property owners' part. The mall has done it. A couple of other shopping centers have done it. The YMCA is going to be doing it. All of Bob Smith's developments do it. So it's a good thing.
Well, you could whisper in their ear saying, we would look very favorable upon your next application if you give us a few charging stations.
Well, let me put it to you this way. If you end up approving this tonight, we have other projects that are in the pipeline but haven't submitted formal applications. They're going to be required to follow it.
Understood. Thank you. I would say we could hear a motion. Oh, yep, question.
You mentioned there was additional language in regards to this regulation proposed for the electric vehicles. Would that involve does it discuss or talk about charging or fees, or is it a free charging station?
Yeah, the legislation doesn't say anything about that. They just say it has to be there. We, in land use, we don't get involved with what people charge for rents, for their homes, for their apartments. If they have charging stations, what do they charge at the charging stations? We don't do that. We just have to make sure that the charging station, is those regulations are in place to make sure that they're built.
Not even if there's any tax implications in regards to that?
Tax
Any
implications?
taxes, like if they charge for these vehicles to be?
That has nothing to do with
That
has nothing to do with planning and zoning. The state legislature did not say anything about they have to be free, they have to be this, they have to be that. And then if that were included in the legislation, that would probably be a piece of legislation enacted by a different body than planning and zoning, because that's not under the purview of what planning and zoning can do.
Thank you for that explanation. Any further questions? Mr. Staddy.
Just a comment. I was on the regulation subcommittee. We agreed to this. I think it's a great idea. I just wish we didn't have the rate increase in another 2 weeks. It's going to affect all of us. But that's, as Mr. Sulkus indicated, we can't get involved in how much people get charged or get for free.
Any further comments or statements about the state of the economy?
I just have a question. In the pursuit of clarity, it says the charging station level 2 need to supply 208 to 240 volts, and then the direct current fast charging is 40 kilowatts. I mean, does that make a difference? I mean, I'm not an electrical engineer, but those are two different measures. So,
Two different kinds of stations, and that language for the requirement of having these charging, that language comes directly from the statutes.
okay. I mean, it's unclear to me, but that's, like I said.
I think the best way to understand it is using the mall as an example. At the mall, you have two different kinds of charging stations. You have the Tesla charging stations, which I think is that direct current fast charging. And then you have the level 2, which are the stations that have the advertisements on them and charge, I believe, at a slower rate. I'm not 100% sure of that, but that's, I think, a way of thinking it. It's two different kinds of charging technologies that the state wanted us to incorporate.
Okay. It's just unclear to me, so I just thought I'd bring it up.
Thank you. To help fellow board members, we can exclude Mr. Cater because he's not a big fan of AC/DC, but alternate current and direct current are two different types of current, and that's probably why they use different things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sadi.
Okay, we got a little levity. Do we have a motion?
We need to close the public hearing.
Would anyone like to speak? I'm sorry, this is a public hearing. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak on the issue, please come up to the podium. Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
I'll make a motion now that the hearing is closed. Proposed regulation change 2211. I move to approve as presented the petition of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board for a change to Milford Zoning Regulations, Article 5, Section 5.1, Parking and Loading Regulations, Section 11.2, Definitions regarding electric vehicle charging stations, with an effective date of January 27th of 2023.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Meg, please call the roll.
Mr. Castagnoli.
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch.
With the motion.
Mr. Cater.
With the motion.
Mr. Collegian.
With the motion.
Mr. Moore.
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer.
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi.
With the motion.
Mr. Zaharides.
With the motion.
Chairman Quish.
And I'm with the motion. Thank you. Motion passes. Next.
Hey, can I bring up one thing real quick first? Just a note, you guys who are wearing headphones, I think you hear yourself better than the rest of us do. When your guys are talking, it's whispers. I can barely hear you, Jim, talking. Because I think you hear yourself clearly when you're talking.
I do hear myself.
So just keep that in mind. I'm not hearing. A couple of times I was on the wrong one because I didn't hear which one you said.
Thank you for that clarity, Jim. I'll try to do better. This is my first crack at the earphones. I do hear the public a lot better, though.
Well, I'm going to bring some next time, too, so I'll talk quiet as well.
No one's actually ever said I was too quiet in my life, so this is a first. No old business. Do we have a liaison report? And tonight, subcommittee report. Obviously, we had the regulations subcommittee. We do have POCD tomorrow night. Is that correct?
It's regulation tomorrow night.
Okay. I'm so confused. Okay. And so it is regulation subcommittee tomorrow night, and it is POCD when? A week, Wednesday.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. That's a week from tomorrow for POCD. Chair's report, just echo the public. I'm glad that there was, a lot of effort and a lot of public input in that accessory dwelling unit. And I think it's good for the city that there's that much communication. Other than that, we have a staff report.
Yes, I have a staff report this evening. Oh, that got everyone's attention. I sent an email earlier today regarding a fabulous training opportunity for the board, March 11th. It is put on every other year by the Connecticut Bar Association. And it, just as a reminder, you now have requirements by state statute to have training. And you have certain things that you have to study and do before, I believe it's next year. And I believe this particular training session checks all the boxes of the topics that you need to be aware of. So the city will pay for you to go. I just need to know that you want to go. It's March 11th. And I would very much like you to let me know within the next 2 weeks. I think in the email it was like Friday the 20-something or other, so we can get the paperwork in. I believe it's a Zoom meeting still, but it's for Saturday, and it's from pretty much 9 to 4 that entire day. But it's well worth it, and you'll get ahead of time a rather thick book of everything they're going to discuss. They go over all sorts of situations in case law that all of the, basically it's all the foundational things that, a board, a land use board should be aware of.
Great, thank you for that. I've already indicated that I'm going, and it is at this point a remote meeting, so you are correct on that. If we could have a motion to approve the minutes? So moved. Second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Motion to adjourn.